This card is one of the best in the game, obviously after it's been evolved. So no surprise, because he has 61 pace, Zouma is incredibly cheap. And if you have a little bit of patience, you can easily snipe him for less. I think I got him for 450. To fund him, you only really need to play 2 games. And because he's a non-rare, he'll probably be the best player you pack in your rewards. In terms of his links, they're probably one of his biggest strengths. I mean, being from the Prem is always good. EA love to give out juiced Prem cards, and this is twofold. France also get really good cards, but he is French, which is slightly unfortunate. And Zouma's base cards would be far more usable if he didn't have the speed of a geriatric, which is fair. He limps around the pitch, he's got one functioning leg. He gets somewhat exploited by any attacker with decent pace, so if you use the base card, which you will have to do, you can't really play a high line, or if you do, just make sure you got a good keeper behind him, one that's not Onana. His agility and dribbling are also pretty poor, but he's a no-nonsense centre-back. You can't really expect much more from him. His passing is also pretty average for a centre-back, but again, this isn't where this man excels. He's competent with his feet and making a pass under some pressure, but don't expect any killer balls. His strengths are his insane strength and his heading. Any 50-50 you get into with this fucker, it becomes a 90-10. That 10% is a chance that the attacker bought some sort of weapon in their socks. His strength is just further exemplified by his bruiser playstyle, essentially meaning he won't lose a physical battle. His strength really does cover for his pretty mediocre defending stats and really bad pace. But as long as you get his body across the man, they may as well run into a brick wall. He can do your standard tackle, but if you miss this tackle, his really poor agility just means it'll take him an eternity to turn around. This man also leaps like a fish. He jumps higher than any man, or woman of course, on the pitch, partly because of his aerial playstyle, and on the off chance that the sweaty cunt you play against decides not to move their keeper to the penalty spot, you could actually pick up a goal or two from a corner. There is actually a lot of potential in him. If you upgrade to his evolution card, it actually nullifies a lot of the issues with his base. The upgrade process is really simple. Win 2 games of any mode, then win 3 games by 2 goals. It's so simple. The first game I played with his base, he was borderline man of the match. Then the second game, he got molested by Liao. So you know, it swings and roundabouts. But you have to trust the process. Once you complete the process, you have this beautiful card on your hands. Right off the bat, the evolution sees a pace increase by 15. His acceleration only reaches 65, but the sprint speed is now 85. Obviously, this is an awful pace split, so while he's not going to be winning any medals over 10 meters, if you give him 100 meters, he probably still won't win any medals, but he'll place pretty highly. 85 is more than enough for a centre-back at this point. It'll keep pace with a lot of attackers, and now he's far less likely to get caught out by a high line. That's if you venture out of your half, which judging by the players I've played against so far, no one ventures that far. The other substantial upgrades are his passing and his defending. His short pass and long passing of 75 is more than enough for a defender. All they have to do is pick out their playmaker. As I said, he's never going to be splitting lines with his feet. He might split some cat skulls, maybe.
Have it.
I managed to complete some really nice passing with him though, and even some longer passes. He can sometimes leave them a bit short, and because he's in your back line, it's always going to cause trouble. His defending also gets a 2+, making him slightly more competent at your standard defensive arts, like the standing challenge, the sliding challenge, and your interceptions. However, despite his defensive awareness, he's really not very smart. Obviously, I can't really give a testament to his actual intellect, but on FIFA, he's fucking stupid. He'll be good enough to pick up some loose balls behind your back line, but he has a lot of trouble when stepping up to an attacker, and this means he gets caught square to his man a lot, and his 47 agility and his average reactions, it's not enough to get him out of it, but his physicality makes up for it. If you kick a cat at him, he'll head the fucker back. Everything that comes in a 5-meter radius of this man will be sent away, whether that's orthodox or unorthodox. His strength is practically maxed out, aggression in the high 80s, and his jumping at 91. He's a massive physical presence, so it's no wonder that Moyes loves him. In the games I played with him, I kept him on a basic chem style at full chemistry. This improves his sprint speed by a little bit, but unfortunately not his acceleration. His weaker areas in defence also get improved by about 4, and his passing gets increased to nearly 80. I personally would suggest basic because it makes him a bit more well-rounded. well-rounded, and that's what I like from my centre-back. However, if you chuck a powerhouse on him, you've got an incredible defender with some very good passing, but he's just a little bit slower. Anchor is also a really good choice, because it gives you incredible defending and the speed of basic, but he'll be like a newborn deer trying to stand up for the first time. You can put a shadow on him as well, which I imagine most fuckers will do, but I don't know, I don't think that's particularly useful. He's fast enough, and it feels a bit wasted to not give him any passing. Anything that improves his physicals is almost pointless, and it's unlikely that you'll need more physicals than he already has, unless of course if you face Haaland. Stats are for mugs, so let's have a look at them. Zouma averaged a rating of 7.1 over his 10 games. He had particular highs of a man of the match, and he even got a goal in a game where we got battered. And he also hit lows of 6.7. It's important to note though, that defenders struggle, like in real life, to get the recognition they deserve. When I was dominating games, all Zouma would have to do is recycle possession, and of course he's not going to get a particularly high rating for that. He also got one goal, and that could be far more, but I haven't quite worked out how to combat against keepers coming out. His pass completion averaged at 90%, which for me, someone who tries really silly passes under pressure, is really good. His dribble completion was also slightly better at 93%. Again, the same as passing. I try the most ridiculous shit with my centre backs, so that's really good. He lost possession 1.3 times per game, which isn't bad to be fair. It is slightly skewed because I had some really poor games playing out of the press, but that's fairly representative because he can be pretty inconsistent in that field. Stats wise, duels is where Zouma should excel, but this area wasn't really that impressive, which actually surprised me a lot. He won 70% of his offensive duels, which is good for a defender because it'll mostly be from corners in their box. 84% of his defensive duels, which isn't quite as high as I thought it would be, and 78% of his aerial duels, which was a lot lower than I thought it would be. I do think there's some inconsistency when they track these stats, because to the eye test, this man didn't lose anything. Also, the data's pretty skewed. There were quite a few games where he didn't get into any duels at all, so the sample size is actually even smaller than 10 games. Overall though, I think Zouma gets an 8 out of 10 considering his price point, considering how easy he is to obtain. Think, you can get this man for 600 coins, put 5 games into him, and you've got an 81 rated centre back who's just unreal.